Welcome to Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallon, and this is where high-performing entrepreneurs and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin. Welcome to Shift. I'm your host, Blake Mallon, and I just got to say, I absolutely love seeing our impact grow day over day, week over week. Is it just me, or does every new guest conversation just take the value to a whole nother level? I have just been absolutely fascinated and am excited and inspired by not only the guests now that are really raising their hands saying they want to come on the show and share their shifts, help really add value to the channel, unite us as a community worldwide, and raise the lid across the industry, but really from all of you that are taking time to share your stories, whether they be the DMs on social or the ratings and reviews. I especially love all the ratings and reviews. Put those publicly out there to the world on those platforms. Show other entrepreneurs in direct selling the value you're finding here. That is what this is about, really rippling out the inspiration and the impact. And I just love that we're building our own little momentum within the show on the value that we're bringing. And I got to say, I do love our time together. I love our guest conversations, and I love our one-on-one time together in these solo episodes every other week, the Shift Summaries, where we come together and reflect. Reflection is such an important and probably underrated conversation today, especially in a time where there's so much information. There's so much you can have access to today. It's important not only to be able to get the proximity like that we're giving you on this show, but to actually take the time to reflect on it and figure out how you can learn from the wisdom that's being handed to you and apply it in a way that moves your life and your business forward. And that's what I'm helping guide you through in these shift summaries. Last week, we had an absolute dynamic power couple on the show, Gregg and Dr. Lenika Scott on here. I love their energy. They were just radiating. I was fired up after that conversation. True trail blazers in the industry. We're talking icons, a long, fantastic journey of success, both the ups and the downs, the mountains and the valleys they shared with us, starting from a former stay-at-home mom turned six-figure earner. I love how Dr. Lenika brought such a mindset and a perspective on entrepreneurship, and Gregg balancing out with his kind of corporate, logical, rational perspective, adding so many invaluable insights to business building. Together, they had a remarkable dynamic, which has led to amazing success, touching countless lives. And their commitment we felt in our conversation, a real commitment you could feel to servant-driven leadership, financial freedom, philanthropy. And I love how they were just open books and really shared their whole journey of, the triumphs, but really diving into some of those setbacks that we can glean insights from for our own entrepreneurial journey to our own destiny. So great conversation, so many key moments talking about embracing transitions for growth, really this roller coaster we're all on of entrepreneurship, how we got to nurture relationships and find strength and connection. Really, so many lessons from the challenging seasons and how to navigate those valleys that we all go through. It's inevitable we'll go through, and stay grounded, not just when we're in the valley, but in the fun times, in the momentum times, and how sometimes the growth times can cover mud, and how to respond and how to know what's coming around the corner. We really peeled back this multiple income stream conversation and talked about some of the foundational principles for success as a direct selling entrepreneur. So if you missed the full episode, definitely go back, check out the conversation. Will definitely be one worth listening to again and again. But for our time today, I want to talk about some of the most significant shifts I got as kind of key themes from our conversation with Gregg and Dr. Lenika. Starting with shift number one. First shift really has to do with not letting your down place define you. I actually have never heard it put quite that way. Dr. Lenika's words, do not let your down place define you. And the shift in perspective here is instead of letting setbacks, mistakes, mess ups, screw ups, that feeling of, dare I say the F word, failure, get in our way, get us down, ruin our energy, prevent our activity. Instead, we got to shift that perspective and really, truly recognize them as stepping stones for growth, for building new skills, to really embody a resilience, and how those challenges that are inevitable are really opportunities to learn, grow. Sometimes they're opportunities to pivot or go a different direction and come back even stronger, which ultimately all shapes who you are becoming. And that's what this journey is really about. The results are awesome. The financial wins are there for you. The lifestyle you dream of is possible, but it's in who you are becoming along the way that is the real victory. And Dr. Lenika emphasized the importance of really not ever allowing your down place, those setback moments, define who you are. She got real with us on the topic of self-sabotage. That's a deep one. You know you're reaching a level of self-awareness that most people don't get to when you start to recognize your own self-sabotage. And I want you to think about that. Are there circumstances right now where you are getting in the way of even the goals that you say you want? Getting in the way maybe with negative self-talk, getting in the way with beating yourself up, being overly hard on yourself, creating an energy that gets you out of state, self-sabotage, maybe not even allowing yourself to put in the time you know and want to put into your business. There's so many ways we trick ourselves. We get in our own way. And we ignore it and blame other things, look outside the window instead of looking in the mirror. And when you start having a conversation of self-sabotage or reframed as a question, how am I preventing myself from moving to where I want to go? That's the level of awareness we want to get to. And that's really where Dr. Lenika said it started for her, is recognizing her self-sabotage characteristics and starting to make those shifts. And how it's not really about personal identity, how we can't tie, and she emphasized this, your personal identity, right, to the seasons that you're in. Who you are, the strengths you have, the talents and gifts you've been given have nothing to do with your current circumstance, situation, or even your current results. So we can't tie up or convolute our identity with our current situation or circumstance. She also talked about, and I love this line, when you're in those valley seasons, as they called it, you got to learn to focus on the promise, not the pain. So good. The promise, not the pain. The strategy of focusing on the promise. The promise of what? The promise of your better future. The promise of what is ahead of you. The promise of that vision, that goal, that potential, that desire, that why, that knowing you have deep down inside that tomorrow is better than yesterday. And that promise, that vision has got to be more powerful than any pain of a current situation you're in or one you will go through. The promise has to be greater than the pain. Focus on the promise and you'll get through the pain. So many great insights. So what do we do with these perspective shifts, this mind shift? So some real simple practical steps that we can take as entrepreneurs to move in this direction, starting with just working on maintaining a positive mindset. You got to practice that basic cliche, a positive mental attitude. It takes practice. It's a skill set. You got to learn. You got to practice self-talk, practice affirmations, practice snapping yourself out of when you're having negative self-talk. You got to work on that positive mindset. Reflection on lessons. One of the things that we're doing right here together on these conversations, it's also building the muscle where you got to reflect on the lessons you go through on your own journey. If you go lesson to lesson to lesson without the reflection, you're going to have to repeat those lessons. You got to take the time to pause, reflect, especially when you're in a season of setbacks or mistakes or mess ups, because those are put in your place to deliver some aha, some new knowing, some new awareness, some lesson is there. And if you don't get the lesson, you're going to have to repeat it over and over and over again. So we got to reflect, and realizing that we're reflecting on those moments and they really do give us a gift of something new. It allows us to build a resilience going through those moments and reframe how we look at them. And it allows us to set new goals when we're in those moments. What are new goals that you're going after right now? And don't forget to celebrate the wins. And not just the big wins. It's not just, getting to the top of the rewards plan or hitting that all-time income goal. Celebrate the small wins along the way. If you don't celebrate the small wins, you're never going to celebrate the big wins. So you got to celebrate and acknowledge yourself for the small victories along the way. That builds a momentum, that builds an energy, and it helps you enjoy the process. So we got to make the shift. We do not let your down place define you. Now, shift number 2 has to do with the topic around financial literacy or financial intelligence. I'm so glad that Gregg and Dr. Lenika took us there on this show, because I think they might have been the first. Such an important topic, a shift in perspective, rather than seeing this financial literacy term as like a box to tick. It really shifts it to a perspective of empowering freedom. Financial literacy, the knowledge around finances, is what makes freedom possible, making and allowing us to have informed decisions, to build a strong financial foundation, to create wealth and security for now and in the future. And they touched on so many great messages around this topic of financial IQ, starting with the obvious that it needs to be a foundational aspect of everything you do as an entrepreneur. Now, I know this might sound so obvious, but I've been doing this for 25 years, and I'm telling you, this is not obvious. Financial literacy needs to be at the very foundation of where you're at, not when you're making $1 million, not when you're making $100,000. Now, at whatever income you're currently at, you need to start layering in a financial literacy education into everything you're doing, understanding basic concepts, budgeting, saving, investing. I love how they really were the example of a debt-free lifestyle. That's something that was important. Gregg shared, Dr. Lenika shared. I'm not saying you have to adopt that, but that's their philosophy. Living debt-free was a means they found to have that feeling of freedom no matter where they were on the entrepreneur roller coaster, on the up or on the down, a debt-free lifestyle, removing the weight, right, of debt, stuff we're not taught. And yeah, we opened up the can of worms and talked about multiple streams of income, such a conversation today, and really debunked the myth of what people misunderstand so often in this channel. Multiple streams of income. Yes, a trend today by far. More and more households are getting to their income goals, not by having one stream get higher, but having multiple streams, right, cumulatively adding together. But I love how Dr. Lenika and Gregg clarified that in this industry, multiple streams doesn't mean trying to build multiple businesses. Matter of fact, they affirmed, and I agree in my experience, I've never seen somebody reach outrageous levels of success trying to divide their efforts in team building or community building. You can use this industry, direct selling by definition, is a multiple stream. For most of you, this is your at least second stream of income. You maybe have a job, a career, a profession, a vocation, and this is now adding a second stream. You're building a second stream in what you do. The goal is to work, right, part-time to build your fortune through this income and generate open cash flow to start investing. Maybe you go into certain investments, or maybe you go into real estate or other passion projects, or once you have a cash flow above your immediate needs, you can use your direct selling business and income to start to diversify other passive income streams, and that should be the goal. That's financial literacy. Not trying to divide your efforts and your time and your energy to build multiple teams. It takes enough just to do one thing well. Focus for seasons over a period of time, and then those will unlock multiple or new income streams in the future. I love the example that Dr. Lenika and Gregg gave us there, and really a vision for financial legacy together, coming together, and what is that goal? So love the concept around financial IQ. So what can we do with this stuff, right? Some practical steps. Well, educate yourself. And I know it's funny we have to talk about this, but most of us weren't educated on finances in the classroom. Maybe one day that'll change, but for now, most of us, it wasn't something we were taught. And the fact is, in most households, it's still not taught financial education. So you got to find a way to get educated when it comes to finances. Create a budget. Have a budget where you articulate what you need in order to sustain the lifestyle you have. Set financial goals. What is your goal for both an income and a spending? You don't get rich or wealthy by the amount of money you make. It's a misconception. You get rich or wealthy by the amount of money you save. I'm going to say that again. You don't get rich or wealthy by the amount you make. You get it by the amount you save. And I've seen a lot of people that made a lot of money that don't understand that concept. If you spend as much or more than you make, you're never going to get to that wealthy lifestyle, and vice versa. You don't need outrageous amounts of income if you're good at this concept of financial literacy. Diversify when the time is right, and make sure, please, 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 entrepreneurs, listen to me here. Make sure you have a plan. Whereas your income comes in as a 1099, most of you are independent entrepreneurs, independent contractors, taxes are not being taken out. So make sure you're setting taxes aside out of the income you're giving, a separate account. Don't touch that. Have the money set aside for your taxes, the money set aside for living. What do you need and what do you want? And start to develop the muscle for saving and ultimately investing. So some key steps when it comes to financial literacy, and I love how really Gregg drove home how that has to be foundational as an entrepreneur, not just for you, but in the community you're building as a team. So let's make the shift and make sure financial IQ is a part of the foundation and the culture you're building as an individual and you are embracing within your community and your culture. So let's make the shift. Now, the last shift I want to talk about, shift number 3, really had to do with the dynamic of, we had Gregg and Dr. Lenika on the show as a dynamic power couple. They're a married couple that both actively build the business and are crushing it together, which has to do with really learning how to focus on your individual gifts and strengths. And this was obvious when talking to a married couple, but this concept or conversation transcends into every time we're working with other people. And we have to shift our perspective here, where instead of viewing differences in each other as bad or obstacles, really understanding that it's our differences, our diversity, that is our synergy and our strength. But it's learning how to embrace that diversity and empower unique gifts and talents to really bring out everybody's strength. So this starts, and Dr. Lenika and Gregg went into this in our conversation, with embracing individual gifts. I get fascinated with just the concept that we all have talents and gifts. And I love how unique from person to person individual talents and gifts are, because they're not the same from person to person, but we all have talents and gifts. And part of the amazing curiosity and discovery of life is becoming more aware and in touch with really the gifts you have and the gifts you've been given, and then learning how to recognize gifts in others. So we got to start to embrace our own gifts and start to recognize and heighten our awareness on the talents and gifts in others. What are their gifts and what are not their gifts, and knowing that's okay. Once we're able to embrace the gifts, we start to kind of divide roles. Look at what can we do to put people in their gift zone or their strength zone. Where can we excel as individuals if we're working with a spouse, right, or a close partner? How can we delegate or divide and conquer and support each other in our roles? And I love how Dr. Lenika and Gregg talked about really one of their secrets was giving grace. That's something we all can get better at, giving grace, learning how to understand and appreciate each other. And even when it's not always perfect and we mess up, because we're human, giving grace within one another. And especially in the case of family relationships and family partnerships, learning how to balance that whole work-life thing, how to prioritize work, life, and this crazy thing that all meshes together we call life as an entrepreneur. So some really practical steps we can take on this shift. I think it starts with open communication. How can you increase open communication with those that you're working most closely with? And usually that just starts with talking and laying out expectations of open communication. How do you then identify individual strengths? And that can be like a list, like what are your strengths? What are their strengths? Write them out. There's an amazing tool out there from Gallup called Strength Finder. I got turned on to this a long time ago by John C. Maxwell. And it's an amazing tool I've used for my own self-awareness and every team I have worked with through my career, whether it be corporate teams or field teams or leadership teams. I love when we go through this exercise. So if you want a shortcut, a hack, just go ahead and Google it, Gallup Strength Finder. You go through an online assessment. It's a small cost. It's not overly expensive, but it gives you some amazing insight into this talent and strength conversation. But we got to make the list and identify them. And then we can delegate and assign tasks based on those strengths. Make sure you set boundaries if you need to set boundaries with the people that you're working with. This is all appropriate conversation to have up front. That clarity is about empowerment, not confrontation or conflict. It's about removing the limitations, not creating lids. And then have regular check-ins where you support one another on the lanes that you guys are running in. Simple things we can all do to take advantage of this concept of really elevating our individual strengths within a partnership and a team. So let's make the shift. So there's your challenge for the week. 3 amazing shifts. There were so many from our conversation, but there's some things we can work on, some reflections from our conversation. Don't let your down place define you. Let's make sure financial literacy is a foundational element for you as an entrepreneur and the team that you are leading. And let's learn to really recognize and embrace our individual gifts and strengths in the culture and community that you are mobilizing right now. You can go back and re-listen to the entire episode. You guys know where we are, all the places. You can find all the platforms simply at shiftpodcast.com. That's the show website. Click the little icons. You can go catch up on some past conversations, and that's where you can stay most up to date on future conversations. While you're there, you can opt into our newsletter or our email right there on the website. Drop in your email. We'll give you reminders when we drop new episodes every Monday. And listen wherever you love to click. So whether that be Audible or Apple or Spotify, we love the traction we're getting over on YouTube. We are cutting these into videos every single week. I think it's a great way to engage and get another energetic level of the conversation. So check out YouTube if you haven't. Make sure you follow and subscribe on all your favorite platforms. And let's remember that one of the greatest things we can do is share the shift. A shift is a gift. You're getting value from these times. You're learning, and I know the people you know can get value as well. So make sure you take the time just to go share the show, whether it be the website or the platform, tag in our social, or if somebody specific you're thinking about right now that's in some of these seasons, go say, hey, I listened to this, I thought of you. That little thing can be the one thing that moves them to their next level, and that's a power you have. So we'll see you next week on Monday. A brand new guest, another absolute rock star and industry icon. I'm telling you, the conversations keep elevating. Tune in every single Monday. Do not miss it. Follow the show and let this be one of your destinations to constantly equip and empower you to accelerate your business and your life. Can't wait for you to meet who we got on the show on Monday. Until then, let's make the shift.